I'm not gonna lie, direct object pronouns tend to be one of my least favorite parts of Spanish. Now, if you're anything like me, you're currently thinking, what are direct object pronouns? In fact, what are direct objects? And I'd be lying if I said I woke up this morning having any clue myself, but I won't, so I'm not. But I did a little refreshing, and in this video, not only are you gonna learn what direct objects and direct object pronouns are, but you're gonna get the simplified version of how and where to use them and how they compare to all the other pronouns we've already learned. Okay, direct objects. A direct object is the thing or person getting the action of a verb. It usually answers the question, what or whom. Carlos eats the food. Carlos eats what? The food. The food is the direct object. Direct objects are easy. They're just like English. Same words in the same order. Carlos eats the food. Carlos come la comida. Where it gets tricky, at least it did for me, is with direct object pronouns. That's when we say Carlos eats it instead of Carlos eats the food. In this case, it is the direct object pronoun. It replaced the food. Here are all the direct object pronouns in English. Now, here they are in Spanish. Me is the easiest one. It's the same basically. Me. You is te. Moving up here, us is nos, and you both is os. Then, as always, third person can be him, her, it, them, or you, both singular and plural formal. On the singular side, him, her, it, and you, formal, is lo or la, depending on if the direct object is male or female. If any of this is confusing, you need to go back and watch the infinitive in conjugation and formal conjugation. Both those videos will clear things up. On the plural side here, them or you both, formal, are los or las. Now, here are the direct object pronouns, like you just saw, next to the subject pronouns, which I taught you in personal pronouns. Because of the patterns and differences, this really confused me at first, which to use when. Remember, subject pronouns are used to replace the subject. Carlos eats the food. Carlos come la comida. He eats the food. Él come la comida. Él instead of Carlos. Él is the subject pronoun. Part of the confusion for we gringos is second person singular. In English, on both charts, it's you, but in Spanish, they're different. For subjects, you say tu, and for direct objects, you say te. As if that wasn't enough, the main thing that confused me with direct object pronouns is the order in which you have to say them. Subject pronouns are easy. Same words in the same order. Carlos come la comida. Él come la comida. But direct object pronouns don't work like that. Well, sometimes they do. In our example from before, Carlos come la comida, we want to replace the direct object, la comida, the food, with a direct object pronoun. Since la comida is singular and female, we use la. But it's not Carlos come la. We can't do that, ever. Come is a conjugated verb. When there's one verb and it's conjugated, like in this example, the direct object pronoun goes before the conjugated verb, always. So Carlos eats it would be Carlos la come. See what's going on here and why this gives us such a hard time? It's like talking backwards. You've got to know your direct object pronoun and get it out of your mouth before you say the verb. In English, you say the subject, the verb, and the direct object pronoun in the same order you would the direct object. Carlos eats the food. Carlos eats it. But not in Spanish. Oh no. Carlos come la comida. Carlos la come. Let's go to another example. Carlos eats the chicken is Carlos come el pollo. Carlos eats it would be Carlos lo come. We use lo this time because pollo is singular and masculine. Let's check out the second person. Carlos introduces you. You is already a direct object pronoun. Its equivalent in Spanish is te. So Carlos introduces you would be Carlos te presenta. The difference between tu and te here is you introduce Carlos is tu presentas Carlos, or just presentas Carlos. Remember, subject pronouns in Spanish tend not to be used. But Carlos introduces you is Carlos te presenta. Then you introduce him would be tu lo presentas, or just lo presentas. Cool? This really gave me a hard time for a long time, even now sometimes, so don't feel bad at all if it's the same for you. One more quick example before we get to the exceptions. Carlos introduces us would be Carlos nos presenta. Us or nos is the direct object pronoun and goes before the verb. Carlos nos presenta. There are two exceptions. One is very common and I love it. The other isn't as common and I hate it. Remember from the infinitive in conjugation, I showed you when there are two verbs next to each other, you conjugate the first one but not the second. This is just like English. I want to eat the chicken. The first verb is conjugated, I want. The second verb isn't, to eat. It's the same in Spanish. I want to eat the chicken is quiero comer el pollo. quiero. Quiero is a conjugated form of querer, and comer is the infinitive. It's not conjugated. You can tell because it still ends in er. Well, when there's more than one verb, you can put direct object pronouns before the conjugated one, like we saw before, or after the unconjugated verb, the infinitive. It's your choice. So in our example, I want to eat it can be lo quiero comer. We put the lo before the conjugated verb, before quiero, but it can also be quiero comerlo. We put the lo after the unconjugated verb or the infinitive, after comer. Notice you actually physically attach the direct object pronoun to the unconjugated verb. Well, not physically, but you know what I mean. So lo quiero comer and quiero comerlo both mean exactly the same thing. Just say it however you want. I like the second way. It's much easier for me because if you look at it, it's just like English. I want to eat it, quiero comerlo. If it were pizza, which is feminine, I want to eat it would be la quiero comer or quiero comerla. Okay? The second exception, then we're out of here. In Spain, they usually say le or les for the third person if it's a male and a human being. So in Mexico, what I just taught you holds true. Carlos introduces him would be Carlos lo presenta. But in Spain, it would be Carlos le presenta. I actually learned Spanish in Spain originally, so when I first arrived in Latin America, in Panama, I thought it was kind of rude they were objectifying everybody. Get it? In Spain, Carlos lo presenta would be more for a dog, while Carlos le presenta would be for a human being. But throughout Latin America, it would be Carlos lo presenta for both a dog and a person. If you're learning Spanish mainly for Latin America, don't worry about le or les right now. Always use lo and los for direct objects. If you're learning Spanish to use in Spain, it's still okay to go with just lo and los. You'll be understood 100% of the time.